Good, right?
Starting to get a little warm. That's good.
Yeah, the sun's coming around. The warm air.
All these out of town people are starting to feel like what we know and love here is in the 90s.
I use the word love, or you should use that word loosely. Although you love it a lot more than I do.
I do.
You do. Yeah. So we got a really cool conversation here that we're about to have.
Yeah.
With a familiar company.
That's right.
That we met in Stuttgart, Germany.
That's
for
correct.
The first time.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about. So real quick, Ben, if you would, just quick self-introduction, name, who you're with, and what you do.
Of course. Yeah. Hi, my name's Ben Aller. I run sales for GeoNet, the world's largest RTK network. What makes us a little different is we use blockchain to deploy our stations. And our goal is kind of to disrupt the typical RTK network system that the Trimble, the Topcon, the Leicas all operate. Yeah, and we're doing pretty well so far.
So, when we first heard about this from Mike in Germany, like I was speechless because the concept is freaking genius, and I haven't done it yet. 'Cause it's only been like 3 weeks, but my intent is to get a miner or a base. On my house up in Pine, Arizona. It's a rural area, but there's nothing up there. We looked at the map, and it's so cool.
You got your own hexagon?
Got my own hexagon.
Perfect.
Yep. Nice.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to doing that, but talk about this business model a little bit because it's very different.
Of course. Yeah. Different is a great word for it. Yeah. I like to say buzzword. That's basically describing my job.
Yeah.
What we do is a traditional homeowner, business owner, whoever they be, they buy one of our stations for about $700, and then they put it on top of their home, shop, telephone pole, wherever they can find a stable location that has internet access and power access. And as a result, based on how accurate their installation was, we reward them with cryptocurrency. So if you have a perfect installed base station, which we monitor on the back end for the data purposes, you will get 100% rewards per day. And that doesn't matter if someone's using the station for the data or not. It's just for having it active. It's pretty incredible. We have over 10,000 base stations now. When you guys interviewed us in Germany, we had around 8,000, 9,000 stations. And we're adding around 150 to 250 stations a week. We're expecting to be at about 12,000 by the end of the year.
And what's the end goal here? How many is it going to take to get the network everywhere you want to be? So
world domination, every single hex.
So how many is that?
That's probably around. That's a great question. Around the world, probably maybe 2 million hexes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, how many would get where most people might be?
I'd say 100,000 is our main goal.
Okay,
that was
there you go.
So when they started the company, 100,000 stations was just the big number. It was the attractive number, and that was the goal for a decade of work. That made a lot of sense when we had 3,000 stations at the beginning of this year, but we hit 10,000 stations in under 3 years.
Wow.
So it's more realistically looking like in the next 5 years, we're going to hit probably 100,000 stations.
Ahead of your goal.
It's
big time. That's really exciting.
It's pretty cool.
So it's global, right? And every country right now?
Not every country. We have a few. Africa's a really hard one. There's 1 million countries in Africa. That makes it a little challenging. The main areas we have are Australia, Europe, India, parts of South America, parts of Africa, the U.S. obviously, Canada. We have the whole island of New Zealand covered, which is kind of silly. And then we have, and then parts of the Philippines. We have a little bit in Japan. We want more in Japan, South Korea, anywhere that you can think of, except for China. That is the one place that we unfortunately do not have stations and are legally not allowed to have stations.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the CCP has a lot of rules about what they allow for geolocation.
So you have these people that have the miners on their home, their business, whatever. Who is benefiting from having this network, this GeoNet?
Well, everybody obviously can.
Well, yes, but who are the primary users? Who's the target audience?
We work with a multitude of industries, everything you could think of. Like everything that touches GPS, we can work with. But the main people that we are seeing use our service are surveyors. They're actually the hardest ones to convince of our service. They're very stubborn.
Shocking. Did not know
reality.
That.
But the most use has been in drones, robots, and agriculture.
Okay, yeah.
For
We
me-
heard a lot about agriculture
Yeah.
at Energeo.
Yeah. Auto steer systems, all that stuff. That's kind of our bread and butter. That's why I actually got interested in the company. I think that's the most helpful use case because Trimble and John Deere have a pure monopoly, and they're really making it difficult to adopt this technology.
Yeah.
I think it's 27% of the United States in 2023 had precision farming applications.
Wow.
If you go to Europe, Eastern Europe, almost the entire area has farmed like 100% precise farming conditions. It's ridiculous. The U.S., who created this technology, is the farthest behind by far. The whole country of Australia will have precise farming spraying, all that stuff. They will have that done in the next decade, like the whole country.
Crazy.
And we've been doing
That's
this for 2 decades, and we only have 27%. And that's because it's so expensive. I mean, I think it's 83% of all farms. It's 87% of all farms in the U.S. are small farms. No small farmer can afford this stuff for every single tractor. And if cost is the biggest issue for this stuff,
Yep.
I think that's where we can really add value because it's
Yeah.
so cheap for GeoNet.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned robots as well.
That's my favorite application.
So there is something, wasn't there a tie to like autonomous lawnmowers or something?
Yeah,
Talk about that.
We are working with. Actually, that's my whole next week. So last week I was in Kentucky at the Equip Expo show, and I met with every major manufacturer you could think of, and all of them are producing these autonomous lawnmowers. So they're using them for commercial lawnmowers, which are, your stuff that can mow 6 to 8 acres, like a golf course, a school, an airport, all those applications. They're already done. The next phase is these companies are making consumer motors, where it's going to be the Roomba for your yard, and they are awesome.
So let me ask you this: why do you need GPS on the Roomba for my yard?
Do you want it to run into your dog? Do you want it to?
No, but the GPS isn't going to help that because my dog moves. But explain
Of course.
that's what people are thinking about is
Yeah.
my Roomba works and it doesn't need satellite.
Exactly, yeah.
So what's the different application here?
So your Roomba, when it's operating, it's bouncing off the walls. A lot of it's pressure sensing. So like if it hits a wall, it knows to not go that way anymore.
Right.
It turns around and recorrects. But it doesn't do a perfect pattern. When you're mowing, though, you look at the mow lines. Like if you look at a regular person using a push mower, they mow up and down, and you can see the exact trajectory that they worked. So this is the same in auto steer. If you're working on a crop that's row crop, you need to have those precise turns so you don't, 1, over mow, and 2, so you don't have patches, which is really useful for lawn care.
Yeah. Well, that, and you don't want it to, there's not a wall for the mower to bump
Exactly,
into. It
yeah.
just runs off the road or runs into the road.
You don't want to have to chase it down the street.
Yeah,
That's the goal. Yeah,
Oh,
it's really neat.
What other like robotic applications are you seeing?
Another company, this is in agriculture. This is basically what they do is it's a carting robot. So people who pick strawberries or any type of berry or ground row plant, they need to put them on carts, and then they drive that cart back to the spraying house, which will put it through the washer and all that stuff, or they need to cart it back to the transporting house. That is a job that doesn't need to happen. You can have a robot that does all of the carting for you. And as a result, this company is also adding a mowing feature to it, so you can mow in between the rows as you're carting the fruit back and forth. It's pretty cool. Another application is the one outside today. I cannot remember the name of the company, but what they're doing is they have cameras on the top of their vehicle, and it does solar maintenance or solar field maintenance for the companies. Like if you have solar panels that are offline, or if the wires look array, you don't want to send someone out to the middle of Arizona where it's 120 degrees and have to walk up and down 10,000 solar panels to figure out where the problem is. You can have this robot go out and then look at it, and it can look at it at night too to figure out which wires are going array. And he actually gave an example outside where a company had that problem, and they figured out that it was rats cutting through these wires. They were chewing through it, and they found the exact place and the exact nest, and they got the whole problem resolved in a week instead of a month.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of really interesting robots.
Yeah. Like it's just changing so rapidly as far as applications go. So what is the tie to you being here at the Drone Deploy Horizons conference?
Of course, yeah. Last week, we signed a contract with Drone Deploy, and we are now going to have our stations available to Drone Deploy customers. So if you're using the Drone Deploy software, they actually mentioned this in their keynote. Instead of having the traditional map that they have now, which is about 3,000 to 5,000 stations worldwide, they'll be adding on 8,000 GeoNet stations to this map, drastically improving coverage. Yeah.
Why didn't we think of this shit?
I know. It's like, you ever think like you're always just like 3 years behind?
3.
Well,
This is so impressive. I love it.
so not only does the users, you buy the station, you benefit from the crypto, from how that goes, but as the value and as the stations go, the value of GeoNet goes up and your currency goes up. That's the idea, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Our business model, and I know Mike probably talked about this, is we're actually a nonprofit, GeoNet specifically. 80% of our revenue on the hardware and the data sales side goes to token buybacks and burns, which is similar to a stock buyback, where it decreases supply and hopefully improves value because there's less tokens in supply. More people need to buy it, so therefore the price raises.
And that's why I asked about like how many, what's the end goal? Because once you get to 100,000 and most of the usable areas are covered, then everyone just has it and everyone continues to use it, and no one else can. The supply of tokens is not infinite, so your value continues to grow.
Yeah, it's really exciting. 2025 is going to be a very big year for us. We have a lot of very large deals in the pipeline. But 2026, hopefully we'll be at 30,000 stations, and we can really see how many people around the world are making the switch because they finally have coverage.
Yep. So autonomous lawnmowers are one thing, but why not autonomous vehicles?
So that is a very good question. In order to do autonomous vehicles, you have to have a special certification. I cannot remember for the life of me. I believe it's ASPICE, some number. But you need that in order to be safety certified for vehicles. Now, to do that process, there's 2 companies that can certify your different your things. In order to get that, though, a company has to sponsor you to do it. So our idea, instead of going through that process, is we're actually going to sell station data to these massive manufacturers. So then instead of them coming to us for the ability to use the network, they have complete control over how they process all the data. They're just using our infrastructure purely. And a lot of other networks that do RTK are starting to do that too, because no one has the coverage that we do. It's not even close. We're 2 times the next biggest player. So they're starting to buy our infrastructure to add to their network, which just leads to more revenue for the company, which we burn in tokens, and then the people hosting the infrastructure get more money for their token.
No, you got to get that thing up in pine fast, man.
I'm like, I can't get this thing up fast enough.
You really can't, because every time someone talks about it, there's your neighbor is already planning it. So you got to get in fit first. That's how it works.
That's been our biggest issue. It's a great issue to have, but our supply side has been a mess. Too much demand. It's so hard. Every time we get a batch of like 500 of these things from the manufacturer, I go to the office and a week later they're all shipped out.
Crazy.
It's nuts. We're having people actually order them now in batches of 100 or more because they need these stations and they have to get it immediately. So they're just going to do a massive batch order of 100 stations and give it to every single family member of everyone that they know.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the corrections that these stations are projecting, I guess, it differs from country to country.
Yep.
Those projections. So there's some really smart people behind the scenes.
Yes. Yeah. Our
pulling this all together.
Yeah. So the auto mount point, it automatically switches the datum for the reference set.
Yeah.
It also switches to the closest base station, obviously. And that was all written by our CTO, Yudan Yi, Dr. Yudan Yi. He actually worked for TopCon for about a decade. He wrote TopNet Live for TopCon, which is their solution. And then he went to China and wrote a Chinese RTK network, very, very well known in China. And then he met with Mike, and they thought of this great idea, and they came to build it. And it's really been his mind that has driven the whole back end of this. And it's why we have customers like Drone Deploy, Propeller, Quectel, all these massive companies that are willing to use our data because they trust his algorithms. Yeah, and it's really interesting. A lot of people have asked us about VRS and stuff like that. We are expecting to have that next year. So we will actually have a VRS solution instead of being single base. So those little gaps that we have in the map, they'll be a lot more usable.
So not only do you need a great idea, you need a Dr. Yi to actually write all the magic to make it happen.
Dr. Faber is not capable of that.
Just not quite there.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And then one other thing that I think is really interesting is this crypto model. It's not new. A lot of people have been doing it. The first example in my mind is Helium. They were the first to do this. As a result, a lot of companies have seen us do so well, and we're actually profitable. And they've decided to use it for multiple different applications. So I don't know if Mike talked to you guys about the Wingbits miner where we're using ADSB.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so we now have a base station that just came out in tandem with a company called Wingbits. It's our joint miner, so it's our new evolution of the base station. It's an actual professional-looking base station where the receiver is inside the antenna, and then we have an ADSB antenna out of the top of it. So it collects both sets of data, and as a result, our users can actually mine both tokens off that project. So the goal is, hopefully in the next couple of years, we're going to have a mega Frankenstein-looking station that has all these different crypto projects that are doing all these things that are useful around RTK, like weather, ADSB, RTK. I can't even think of all the different combinations. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's very cool. Really exciting stuff.
It blows my mind every time we talk to these guys.
I know.
It's the best way to finance a company.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, Ben, anything else when I get out there? This has been a great conversation. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, it's nice to talk to you guys.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. No,
You guys really light up on there. It's incredible.
Really good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. I got a picture of your name tag, right? I think so. Let me double check.
And then how does the audio work? Do we get access to it at all, or?
We can give it to you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I know our marketing team would love it.